Debt built the modern world. It built cities, armies, empires, and dreams. Every great power in history rose on borrowed money, and every one of them was destroyed by it. Because debt is not just a number, it's a chain, a promise that always outlives the one who made it. This is the story of how empires were built on debt, and how that same force broke them again and again. Long before Wall Street existed, the idea of borrowing from the future was already ancient. In Mesopotamia, farmers borrowed grain before harvest. In Rome, generals borrowed silver before campaigns. Debt was the bridge between what you had and what you wanted. But like every bridge built too long, it eventually collapses under its own weight. The first great empire to learn that lesson was Spain. When conquistadors crossed the ocean in the 1500s, they found mountains of silver and gold. But Spain didn't use that wealth to build industry. It used it to borrow even more. Wars with France, with England, with the Dutch, all financed with promises. At first, everyone wanted to lend to the Spanish crown. After all, how could an empire that owned half the world ever default? The answer came quickly. By 1557, Spain declared bankruptcy, then again in 1575, then again in 1596. In less than 50 years, the richest nation on earth had gone bankrupt 3 times. The same treasure that built the empire became the weight that sank it. Because when you borrow to expand, you don't build strength, you build pressure. Centuries later, Britain took the same gamble. During the 1700s, its government discovered that wars could be won not just by soldiers, but by credit. When the 7 Years' War erupted, the British Treasury borrowed vast sums from private investors. The money funded fleets, cannons, and colonies. It worked. Britain defeated France and became the dominant empire of the modern age. But victory came with a bill. National debt soared to levels never seen before. Interest payments consumed more than half the government's income. And to cover it, Parliament turned to the colonies, raising taxes on tea, paper, and trade. The colonists rebelled. The result was the American Revolution. The irony is breathtaking. The very empire built on credit lost its crown because of the taxes used to pay for it. The United States was born from that rebellion, and soon learned the same dangerous lesson. In 1791, the new nation created the first U.S. bank, tying its future to borrowed money. Debt became the lifeblood of American ambition. It financed railroads, factories, and westward expansion. Each boom was followed by bust, and each collapse brought bigger debts. By the early 20th century, debt wasn't a tool, it was the system itself. World War I pushed borrowing to new heights. World War II made it permanent, and the Cold War made it endless. The United States discovered that you could rule the world not by gold or armies, but by credit. The dollar became the global IOU. The promise that never had to be repaid in full, only rolled over forever. It was genius, and it was a trap. Because when power rests on debt, you must always grow faster than your interest, and no empire can do that forever. History's debt cycles follow a cruel rhythm: borrow, expand, celebrate, then collapse. Spain's gold, Britain's credit, America's dollars, different currencies, same story. Every expansion creates the illusion of control. Every collapse reveals who really held it. In Spain, it was foreign bankers. In Britain, it was the bond market. In America, it's the Federal Reserve. Each empire starts as a lender, each ends as a debtor, each insists it's different, and every time, the interest payments tell the truth. In the 1970s, as the U.S. left the gold standard, debt became infinite. Without the limit of gold, governments discovered they could print their own credit. Politicians could promise anything, as long as someone, somewhere, would buy their bonds. Citizens became investors in their own illusion, holding savings tied to debt that could never be paid. Today, the United States owes more than its entire economy produces. Japan's debt is twice its GDP. Even small nations are trapped in perpetual borrowing. We call it modern finance. History calls it the debt spiral, a slow, invisible collapse where growth depends on tomorrow's promises. But debt isn't evil. It's power in disguise. Handled with discipline, it builds cities, industries, and hope. Handled with greed, it destroys trust, currencies, and nations. Rome borrowed soldiers' loyalty with unpaid wages. Spain borrowed silver from the future. Britain borrowed from the bond market. America borrowed belief itself. Each empire thought it could outsmart the math. Each was wrong, because the interest of history always comes due. When debt grows faster than productivity, collapse is not a question, it's a date. It begins quietly. Inflation rises, taxes follow, trust erodes. Then suddenly it snaps. Bonds lose buyers, currencies lose faith, and the mighty become borrowers begging their own citizens for relief. It happened to Spain, it happened to Britain. It's happening now. The lesson is simple, but ignored. Debt can build an empire, but only discipline can keep it alive. Borrowing is a tool. Dependence is a disease. The empires that survive are those that borrow with purpose and repay with restraint. The ones that fall are those that forget the difference. The world today runs on promises. Governments owe banks. Banks owe investors. Investors owe confidence. And confidence owes nothing to anyone. Debt is the invisible empire now. The system that rules without armies or flags. But history whispers the same warning. When trust breaks, credit becomes chains. And when that moment comes, the empire built on borrowed time finally runs out of it. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History has the answers, and Money Lore will show you where to look.